Hi, it's Chris Jaberzini with KNAC.com, and I'm here with Stephen, and Les of McSwain Guitars. Beautiful.
This is us.
Yeah.
It's the team, the whole team.
Right. Tell me about your process, how this came to be. Who wants to talk?
Well, I've been building guitars for, I think, officially 2016 was 20 years, which is crazy to believe, 20 years. And, you know, it all started out of just a necessity. I needed a guitar, and Steve and I had the only band at college for 4 years, which was...
We were awesome. Incredible. We were great. Yeah.
After a few beers, we were great. No, it was Furman University, and so, you know, after I graduated, I started pulling out my old carving tools from when I was a kid and bought a guitar body, started carving faces into it, and that went to Steve Vai. And then I bought blocks of wood instead and started cutting it out with the...
So wait, you carved a guitar that looked like Steve Vai, or...?
No, it was like just a guitar body I carved faces into the wood. And then the crazy thing is, rewind with NAMM in, what was it, 88?
1989.
1989. Young Steve Hall here was at the NAMM show with a music store, Sims Music, out of Columbia, South Carolina. And, you know, we were just hardcore devotees of Steve Vai. Steve was getting his getting his autograph and overheard him giving his private number. And so he remembered it. Being the mind like a steel trap, remembered his number, called it, got Steve on the phone, and Steve sent him a copy of Flexible Leftovers autograph. So we're losing our minds over this. So fast forward to 1991, I graduate, I build this guitar body. I wanted to get it to Steve. So I called this Steve. He still has a number. I call Steve Vai. Steve answers, he's like, how'd you get this number? I was like, you gave it to me at the NAMM show? Anyway, so I've got this guitar I want to send, just like dance, you know. So I sent it to him, he called me back, and he loved it. So that kind of set the stage for other people with the legitimacy. Like, I would go to every show that came through Charlotte. And Alice in Chains came through. Well, who has your guitars? Well, Steve Vai has my first one. They're like, oh, okay, well, I better get one then. So it just kind of evolved with that. We kept in touch. I knew Les from the time, you know, when we were in college together. Les is an incredible musician, like virtuoso guitar player, keyboard player, producer, composer.
He doesn't talk much.
What's that?
I said you don't talk much.
Not when I can't hear.
He can't get a word in when I'm going, so it's like, so, you know, Steve has been just a great friend and has imparted some of his knowledge of growing businesses, and he's been a venture capitalist for years, and so through his guidance, I was able to do a few things and kind of understand where I wanted to take this thing. I begged him to come on as my partner a couple years ago, and he acquiesced and said yes, and so 2 years later, the business is starting to really blossom, and, you know, we're booked up through the fall with orders already for 2018. We haven't even hardly started NAMM yet, and thanks to this guy and his knowledge of marketing and how to really turn the dials and make this thing grow. So one of the log jams has been, you know, how to produce them fast enough, and one of the most time-consuming things is building the necks. That's where this guy comes in, because he's an incredible craftsman on top of being an incredible musician. So he knows how the necks are supposed to feel. Les came out last year after NAMM and learned the process of fretting and inlaying necks. So he's doing the necks now, sends them back to me in Portland, we put them together, and here's what you have.
They're beautiful.
Yeah.
And a good moral to the story is be kind of a stalker, right?
What's that?
You have to be kind of a stalker.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I prefer persistence, but, you know, it's all nuance in how you say it.
So show me your guitars here. What your favorites?
This is the Ace of Spades, which I had done one of these in wood, and it was a little more rustic looking, so Steve and I wanted to kind of come out with something that was a little more kind of just dark rock and roll. So this is like this whole vintage kind of feel of just the black, the little aces on there with the screws in them, and the aged hardware, the knobs and everything. So, and one of the neat things is on these, we got a patent on this last year. This is, the aluminum is called the tone layer. And so what it is, it's an aluminum channel that has a little thin, about millimeter thick bottom, and you inlay the fretboard into the neck. So it transfers a ton of vibration up and down the neck, and so it's a functional thing that you also have this really cool polished fretboard, you know, with the binding. So it's one of the things where we have just a really cool look as well as like this added feature. And the patent went through in about 2.5, 3 years, which was my buddy who's my patent attorney said that's the fastest patent he's ever had to go through, which is super cool. So it provides for a bunch of different variations of it. So all of those are getting it. And I'm getting ready to do a sound test on an oscilloscope with a professor at Lewis and Clark University, and he's going to do a test, one with, one without. So we're going to actually have the data to show what it does, which is going to be really cool. So
Very cool.
this is the Ace of Spades. Then here is the Brit Flag, and you know I love doing the flags just because. First off, they're common property, so you reproduce them. You don't have to worry about a licensing thing. So this is thin aircraft aluminum that I'll paint and then distress and then seam all together with the metal, and it's over solid mahogany. So, and it's just, and it looks like it's heavy, and that's one of the most common things that I hear about the guitar is like, wow, this is incredibly light, 7.5 pounds. So, you know, you're
Pretty light.
what's that?
Mahogany, is it pretty light?
Mahogany can be really, really dense and really heavy, so it just depends on the construction of the guitar. And that's kind of one of the things that I took into consideration when I was designing these was how it balances and how it fits and hangs. So, you know, you want it to be kind of light, you know, so you're not, you know, they'll joke about the 70s Les Paul is one of the heaviest things in the universe, you know, so, but, and then this is what we call the Red, White, and Bullets, which is, pun intended, our flagship guitar. So this is a, you know, same kind of construction as the British flag, but the stars I carve out of jeweler's wax, have a mold made, and then I'll shoot the injection wax, and then put the bullets in and have the stars cast out of either. Oh yeah, they're 357 Magnum shell casings. So it's just, you know, got guns in America, you know.
It's a boy guitar for sure.
Oh, it's such a boy guitar. Actually, the crazy thing is, I had a client last year at NAMM who bought one, and she's this dainty woman who just absolutely loves
Makes
it.
it even more cool.
It's awesome. It's like right on. So it is a unisex guitar, I'll have you know. No, but so, and one of the things is, you know, a lot of people will hang their guitars just on a hook in their living room. And so I wanted to hang this in the living room, and Robin, my wife, she's like, well, we need a piece of art in there. So hence the wall mount. So,
Did you sell these
oh
also?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is an add-on. If you want to get it with the guitar, you can. You know, so we're doing the flags. We're going to do some barnwood ones, and we're also launching it to where the wall mounts are universal, so you can hang a Gibson or a Fender or Ibanez or whatever you want on there. So that's going to be neat. That's going to come up. Hopefully, introduce that at Summer NAMM.
Awesome.
So we'll see.
Awesome.
We'll see.
Yeah, that would be cool.
And then this is a really unique one. This is I licensed
That's
about
beautiful.
7 prints from Ralph Steadman from the book Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. So Ralph, you know, I got in touch with his agent, and Ralph's like, he's a guitar player, and he's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. So he did 20 splatter ink prints custom for this line. So that goes on first, and so it's a reproduction of it, and then the print goes on. That gets clear coated over, and then you have the pages from the actual paperback from 1971. So I've been scouring the internet, getting these books and tearing them out and gluing them on. So I did one. Slash saw it, and he's like, "Dude, that's my favorite book. I gotta have it." So he bought the first one. This is number 2 out of 25, and we're only doing 25 of each print. And so it's kind of funny because Slash called me up, and he's like, "Hey, can you get me in touch with Ralph? Because I want to see if he'll do my book cover." So I call up his agent, and the guy's like, he said he didn't know who Slash is. I'm like, how can you not know who Slash is, you know? So,
Wow.
so we, you know, I ended up having to tell Slash. He's like, he said he wasn't going to do it. So I said, that's cool. Thanks for checking. So then Slash did his first record after Guns N' Roses, his first solo record in, 15, 20 years, I think, post Guns N' Roses. And he said, hey, man, would you check with him and see if he would do some art for my album? So I called his agent. I was like, dude, please, this would be such a cool thing for me to help him out. So he got him to do it. And now Slash and Ralph are great friends, and Slash did the music for a documentary that Ralph was doing, and so
What a
it's
great
like,
thing.
so I'm like, I'm responsible for this evil union of you two maniacs, and so it was kind of cool. So,
awesome.
but you know, it's just such a, and having Slash is the guy who has the first one, such a great ambassador for this line, you know, and.
So what would something like this retail for?
Around $7,500.
That's not bad.
So, you know, and it's a piece, you know, kind of a piece of history because you had the actual paperback on here, and then you know the Ralph Steadman artwork that's specifically for this line.
Is each guitar with the Steadman line different? A little different?
Slightly. So you're going to have, I mean, because you can't really tear out the exact same passages of the book, so there's all different kinds, and so that'll be different. Little different placement, you know, because I'm doing them all by hand, so it's not going to be exact. But then you have the aluminum inlay in the Fear and Loathing and Las Vegas font, so that's all going to be pretty much exactly the same. Yeah, of course. So.
Yeah, his guitars, you keep looking at it, and different things keep popping out.
That's exactly what I want you to do, because if you look real close, there's the screw side dots as the fret markers. So, you know. So yeah.
Well, my goodness, thank you so much. This is, I mean, my favorite line of guitars right
You're
here.
sweet. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to come let me yammer on about my stuff. So.
Of course. It's Krista Abruzzini, KNAC.com.
Woo!
Is that right? Well, I guess you're about ready then, aren't you?
We're your friends. We're not like the others, man. Really.
No more of that talk or I'll put the fucking leashes on you, understand? Get in.